How much does the UFC actually make? The UFC has had over 730 events in total, creating some of the most hyped fights the world has ever seen. But today we're going to find out how much profit the UFC actually makes during an event. This video took tons of time and dedication, so if you could please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this that go very in depth on the UFC and the background. But to understand how the UFC actually runs, you need to know who's actually running this. Everyone's already aware of Big Boss Man Dana White. In 2001, Dana White teamed up with Lorenzo Fertitta and Frank Fertitta to buy the UFC and create a Goliath fighting alliance. These three massively grew UFC popularity. In July of 2016, Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta bailed themselves out of the UFC, making an estimated $4 billion for their shares. This left Dana White as the last member of the group that purchased the UFC in 2001. Although many fans believe Dana White is the creator of most of the fights in modern day, it's actually somebody else. Introducing Hunter Campbell, the mastermind of negotiating with fighters and their managers, who is also Dana White's right-hand man. These two are the two most important guys in the business currently as of May 2025. Now that you have a background of who actually runs the UFC operations, let's get into how much they make per pay-per-view. In this video, we'll be covering UFC 295. This pay-per-view was held in no other arena than the Mecca itself, Madison Square Garden. This was an absolutely stacked pay-per-view featuring Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira for the UFC light heavyweight title. Co-main event, Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich for the interim heavyweight title fight. Also featured on this card was Diego Lopez versus Pat Sabatini and Matt Frevola versus Benoit Saint Denis. This mecca of a card in Madison Square Garden led to a $12.4 million gate and the fourth highest UFC grossing gate in history. This pulled in 19,039 attendees into Madison Square Garden and also sold 300,000 total pay-per-view buys. Now let's talk about how much the fighters got paid for this event. The total pay for the fighters on this card was $4,787,000. Venom sponsorship pay to the fighters was $271,500, and performance of the night bonuses totaled at $350,000. Fighters that received bonuses were Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka, Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich, Mackenzie Dern, Jessica Andrade, Matt Frevola, Benoit Saint Denis, Pat Sabatini, Diego Lopez, Nazim Sadikov, and lastly Borishev. Now, let's get into the harder things to calculate. It is estimated to hold an event at Madison Square Garden, it will usually run you $100,000 to $500,000 for the night. Considering this was a big pay-per-view and a big event in Madison Square Garden, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and call it $500,000 for the arena. Now, one of the harder things to calculate for the UFC, merch sales. There is no clear-cut number on how much the UFC makes on merch sales per year, but we do have some information about it. In the first 9 months of 2023, UFC made around $43.3 million off of merch sales, and that's just in the first 9 months, leaving that to around $4.8 million per month in merch sales. Considering there's about one pay-per-view per month, and there's also fight nights, so on and so forth in between, we can estimate the UFC makes more or less $4 million off of merch sales per pay-per-view event. Not just shirts, but also keep in mind the pay-per-view exclusive shirts, pay-per-view exclusive signed posters, posters in general, and other items that are exclusive to the pay-per-view that they sell at the arena. Another cost you have to include is how much the UFC pays on lights and a crew. According to ESPN, the UFC on average spends $2 to $2.5 million on lights and a crew per pay-per-view. At UFC Noche, Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley, the UFC spent a staggering $20 million on lights and crew. This was the most they had ever spent on it. Now, let's add this all together. From ticket sales to pay-per-view buys, merch sales, fighter pay, arena bill, and lights and crew, the UFC is estimated to make $35.1 million in profit at UFC 295. That was a lot of math, and my brain hurts really bad now. If you guys like in-depth videos like this, please leave a subscription and a like on this video. It would be highly appreciated. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers, so help your boy out a little bit. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.